Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Surviving, the safe space for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to receive support, resources, and share their stories. Beyond Surviving is about freedom, healing, connection, and even laughter and fun. Most importantly, it's about letting go of the pain of abuse and finally moving on. I'm Rachel Grant. For those of you who don't yet know me, I've been a sexual abuse recovery coach since 2007 and am the author of Beyond Surviving, the final stage of recovery from sexual abuse. I work with survivors who are sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable, and I help them break free from the pain and finally have the lives they want. You can learn more about me and the Beyond Surviving program at rachelgrantcoaching.com. So today, folks, I'm so excited to have here with me my guest, Katja Cooper, who will be sharing with us how to remember your unique spirit and trusting that being you is a contribution to others. Man, I love that. I can't wait to hear more about that. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Katja before we have a conversation. She is an inspirational survivor, insight artist, and joy seeker, contributing to increased awareness and health for all ages. Her personal journey and experience with clients healing from traumatic experiences inspired her to contribute more through her writing books. So she's co-authored Menopause Mavens, sharing how repressed childhood abuse memories emerged for her during that period of her life. And she also has an upcoming book, An Elf's Journey, Healing Childhood Sexual Abuse, that's going to be published later this winter. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit and how she uses story to explore healing, which I'm very excited about. Katja integrates a wide variety of therapeutic practices to guide a survivor in reclaiming their authentic self and discovering their innocence through the art of this fairy tale. So we are very, very lucky to have her here with us today. So let's sit back and enjoy our time with Katja. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate all the work that you do and the inspiration that you've been to myself and all your listeners and everyone that you help.
Thank you for that. Well, it's a real joy and it's a real pleasure to get to do this work and as a result to get to have, great conversations and meet all sorts of people like yourself. And so I want to dive right into this topic because it's something that, I think is out there, this idea of true nature, authentic self, and I think that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So what does that mean to you, and how do we begin to recognize our true nature?
Oh, to me, it's that essence that we experience in our calm, confident, and knowing state. That I almost feel there's an injustice putting words to it, but I think it helps us recognize who we really are, and sometimes looking at who we are, what we are not, helps us identify what our true nature is. And like you said, our authentic self, wise self, our true self. And so there's an exquisite energy to that when you sense into what is that when we feel that sense of being. And a lot of times we find it when we're in nature. And what is not is other people's judgment of us, or even our own judgment when we're critiquing ourselves, or over-critiquing ourselves, finding fault with ourselves. And it's not that dysfunctional thinking of what we're doing wrong, or that dysfunctional activity that may have taken place in our life of another person. And that abuse leaves a layer of shame, and that's not who you are. To the listeners, that's not who we are, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And when we can leave that shame behind, we're left with sensing more of who we really are. And shame is believing that there is something inherently wrong with you, which is not true. So when we can release that, that's when we can start to find more of who we are.
Mhm. Thank you for that. I think this is such an important piece of the healing journey for survivors, because exactly as you say, the experience of abuse really begins to separate us from our essence, from the truth of who we are, and in its place become all these falsehoods and lies and warped perceptions about ourselves. And undoing that, there's a lot of layers to that potentially, but it's so doable. And I loved what you said there about how it just starts to be like this energy and this vibe of, feeling like you're in the flow of who you really are, and not being encumbered by, all of those false messages that were created as a result of the abuse.
Yes. Yes.
So I know that in the work that I do with my clients, that's definitely a part of our journey, and I come at that from a couple of different angles. And I know this is something that that you think about as well, and that you've got some exercises and ways that can help our listeners, like right here in this moment, do a little practice to help them connect with that true nature and start to even notice what's outside of their true nature. So I'd love for you to take us on that journey and lead us through that exercise.
Okay. So I would ask that you might want to get a pen and paper in case there's any insights that come to you, because those are the most valuable insights, the ones that come through you. And then when you're ready to start to notice your breath. And you can do this with eyes open or closed if you're comfortable closing your eyes, if you're in a place that you can do that. And imagine a place in nature that you feel comforted. Could be in water. It could be in the woods. And have you ever noticed how nature has no judgment of us? There is an energy that, like we've been talking about, to everything. And notice when you rest into nature and go into stillness, just notice what you sense. And without any judgment of how you're doing or what you're doing, just allow yourself to be soothed by your breath. And when you inhale, you can inhale stillness. And as you exhale, release any tension. Just feel it leaving your body. You might imagine it going into the earth. You could imagine a bonfire. What is it that you need at this time? And listening to your body. If your body wants to move or rock, just allowing your body to lead the way. And let yourself be comforted in knowing that there's not something that is wrong with you. What if there's nothing wrong with you? Allowing yourself to release any of those past thoughts, ideas, or beliefs, and just let them leave your body with your exhale. And breathing in from the environment around you that you're imagining. Breathing in the energy that you need, the qualities that your body would benefit most from, like courage, confidence, curiosity, strength, calmness, gentleness. What is it that would be best for you at this time? Could be lightness, could be humor, could be playfulness, joy, the energy for more laughter in your life. Imagine that coming into you and strengthening who you really are. Sensing that essence of who you are in your core. And really embracing that essence of who you are. It might be like a tiny little spark. And as you inhale, imagine that spark growing, that essence of who you are. Imagine it expanding and filling your whole body, your whole being. Filling the area all around you. And every time you inhale, you can allow that to expand. Imagine your essence growing and growing. And really sense this and take a picture. Keep a memory of what this is, your essence, your true nature, and how you can expand it out. You can expand it as big as the world. You can expand it into the universe. And sense your wholeness. And know that you can always come back to this space. It's within you. You've created it. And nature and your imagining nature, which is very real, as you probably just experienced, is always there for you. And so you can continue to relax or rest. You can listen to my words, but if there's a word that you know is better for you, feel free to change it out and use the words, the ideas that are best for you. You can start to move around. And Rachel, you and I can continue with our conversation, and our listeners can just enjoy this from their resting space or move around. And did you sense anything with that, Rachel?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that guided journey. And what I really experienced was that the difference that I always notice, and that I was able to reconnect with and even re-presence today, was when I am outside of my best self or my nature, authentic self. So many ways to say it, but things feel really tight, really small, very limited. And I just loved how, like, as you were talking, my breath was slowing and I was able to tune into the sounds around me more, and then from there kind of able to stretch out even further, and felt, even wanting to like stretch my body out more and my arms out more, and that expansiveness. And I love that as a representation and as a symbol of what we have to gain as survivors of abuse when we go through healing. That we are able to move from a place that's very limited and trapped and small and confined and tense, and really just spread our wings and open up and have more spaciousness and expansiveness in ourselves, in our lives, in our relationships. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that reminds me, when you said the word tight, it reminds me of how I feel at times when I'm feeling like a victim, or when I can slip into feeling that way. And I think this is all about, and what you teach is that we can choose to move out of that.
Right.
And our body is we're so connected to our bodies. We're not just our mind. And, moving our bodies in that way, even in stillness, taking that expansion to that
That's right.
place.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely. You. Man, really good. I'm so relaxed now. I'm like, okay, wait, I got to keep going. Okay, so I'm going to wiggle a little bit to reignite. Awesome. So one of the things I was also really present to as you were guiding us through that is just your beautiful use of imagery. And I know that, in storytelling, really, and I know that this has really become an avenue for you, a way that you are approaching talking about healing from sexual abuse, giving survivors a way of accessing and entering into discovering, their own, whatever they need. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you've arrived at this place of writing this story and using symbolism and story to really guide the healing process for survivors.
It's funny because I feel like the story really chose me. And I think that's a good example, because I believe that we are each so unique that we're going to have these, it might seem really strange, ideas of what we could do. And yet it just didn't leave me alone. And, so it helped my process. It helped me process through my healing journey. And my abuse happened when I was so young, even pre-verbally. And that, using logic really didn't help reach, there was still a disconnection to really reaching the parts inside of me that had been harmed and they hadn't been listened to. So in creating this story, I helped myself work through things, but I also love creating. And so I think when we look at what do we love to do, that's also another key for our healing journey. And so I even found, like I said, the logic, it was kind of like trying to use even some tools in psychotherapy that are logical and trying to use that toward my healing. It was like talking. Have you ever seen an adult talk to a child and they're talking to a child like at an adult level? And
Sure.
there's that loss of connection.
Yeah.
So I was able to connect in this way, and I find that this story really helps connect with an inner child, especially a younger child, and helps draw that child out to give us messages of what's going on inside that inner child so that we can actually tend to that child in a way that's needed. Could be things like we might get messages like rocking, or like my inner child loves to swing. And I've taken my child on swings so often that it's just my way of releasing worry. And like rolling down hills. So the story really builds a playful relationship a lot. I use nature a lot in it, and it uses a lot of creative exercises to help accept and relieve feelings that otherwise could be stuck and hidden inside of a very young child.
Love that. Yeah, I think that there's this wonderful space in which it's kind of, in some ways, I think, for us survivors, it can be a wonderful thing that we have access to that sometimes other people don't. We do have that little bit of an inner child who can, of course, cause a lot of trouble and throw temper tantrums and cause us to come out of our adultness in times where maybe we want to be adults.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there is a youthfulness and a playfulness and a childlikeness that that can become our benefit, and that we can use in our day-to-day life just for plain joy, but also, to access for healing. And, the inner child and the concept of the inner child, I think, is another one of those terms that a lot of people have lots of different ideas about what that means and what that represents to them. But I love that, you're allowing yourself to basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, what really started to work for you was noticing that there were these ideas and there were these emotions and that there were these things that needed to be expressed, but trying to come at them from the adult space, that it just kind of fell flat, or it didn't make any sense, or it didn't resonate. But when you turned it into story, or you turned it into play or narrative or fantasy, that it was able to kind of unlock and release. Do I have that about right?
Yeah,
okay.
What I found is curiosity was really important, and really a lot of patience with curiosity, because I was talking to little toddler parts of myself that didn't have words. And so what I found is that when I really listened and really stayed curious long enough, that she basically would talk to me with pictures. And so I would start to understand, and that's how I found out what happened to her. She started to show me what happened. She didn't have words for what happened.
Right.
And so I think that it's important to stay curious as to, what's really going on? What's going on behind the fear, the terror, the sadness?
Yeah, let's say a little bit more about that. What would you recommend for our listeners if they're noticing that there are some things that maybe feel that's sitting there, but they haven't found a way to connect to it, and it's on that level of maybe pre-verbal or, very young? What are some of your favorite ways that you use to guide people in connecting with that inner child so they can really tune in to those needs and meet those needs here today?
Sure, because it's different for everyone. So I'd like to give a number of ideas so that, see what resonates for you. Yeah. And one is called unblend from that part of you that is feeling the emotion. So it's like experiencing that part sitting outside of you, if it's willing. You don't have to push the little child. Just ask, would it be willing to sit outside of you? Maybe sit on your lap or sit next to you. So it's kind of like bringing an emotion that you feel very strongly attached to, but actually allowing it some space outside of you. And if not, that's okay too. But just to ask is important. And that comes from a psychotherapy modality called internal family systems, that little exercise.
Nice.
And then to listen and stay really curious. You know, if you have judgment about your inner child, which we tend to do, unfortunately, to set that judgment aside and just really listen. Another way that I love that works with this is to use your non-dominant hand to write.
Yeah.
And when I first started doing this in writing, so my child was giving me messages, I actually found that the parent in me was criticizing the way my child wrote. So I needed to put that aside.
Right.
And, that is not listening. And when I really listened, then I started finding out what she needed. And for me, it was a lot of playtime. And then I would fight with myself about, I don't have time to play. But I found that when I would take those 10 minutes to go to a park and go on a swing, my inner child brought me so much energy that I got so much more done.
Yeah.
So it really can be very practical when you work those things out and listen.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Oh, other ideas? Yeah, keep going for sure.
I think when you get the idea, the whole listening thing, and I think to also ask your inner child, how often do you want me to check in with you and listen to you? Because it might be once a day, and then to ask when. Is morning when you're most receptive to listening to that inner child? And then things like what would your body feel comforted with? Because you might not even get real clear messages. So rocking is a really good one if it's a very young child.
Yeah.
And anything that's comforting, whether it's a stuffed animal or holding a pillow, like you're holding your inner child, even putting your hand over your heart center, like over the middle of your chest, and holding your hand there gives it can really change the energy internally for that inner child. And I have more in my book. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, I was just gonna ask if these are kind of outlined anywhere, so in the book people can find more information about those strategies. Awesome.
Yes, and I've got more strategies in there that I'm not even thinking of right now.
Those are really great places to start. And, a couple of years ago, just by way of kind of expanding my understanding and expertise, I was in Australia, actually, and did some work with Liz Mulliner, who has a retreat center there called Heal for Life. And the heart and soul of that space is you get to come here and play. This is where your inner child gets to be seen, heard, understood, expressed. And one of my favorite days of that retreat was, party day. And it was like kid food. It was everything that you can have. And you just got to follow your whims and, follow where you wanted to go. There wasn't anything you had to do. There wasn't any, adulting to be done.
I love that.
Yeah, and I remember there was a moment I was doing the non-dominant hand writing, and I was dealing with a very hard memory of, when I had been abused, and I asked that little girl, I said, well, so what do you want now? What would make you happy now? And she said, lip gloss. And I thought, what? And I'll never forget, I was sharing this story with one of my dear friends, and the next day in the mail, I got, all these different sparkly lip glosses, right? She lived out And such a good friend. And, but yeah, and it was so interesting to just, whenever I put that lip gloss on, it was almost like an immediate moment of like acknowledgement, healing, nurturing a part of me that didn't get nurtured, that needed it. And, just so freeing. So there's so many wonderful ways for us to access that and to create some real healing in that way.
That is such beautiful support. That reminded me of a time that I walked into my friend's house and we were going to do some hands-on healing with each other. And she knew my situation and what I was healing through, and she had healed through childhood sexual abuse herself. And I walked in and I felt like I said, I just feel like whining. And I'm not a whiner. I would not say this to anyone else, but I knew that she would understand. And she said, oh, come here and put your head on my shoulder, and we'll be little puppies, and we'll just whimper for each other.
Nice.
Oh, my gosh. It just changed everything. Right? I felt, oh, my gosh, compassion was so big with that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so wonderful because, one of the very first things that starts to happen when abuse begins is the loss of choice, the loss of being able to be whimsical and just, flow and get needs met and express everything. Almost going back to that theme, starts to feel very locked down and shut off. And so when we can give ourselves permission to just express, whatever needs to be expressed. If I need to stomp my feet, or if I need to, scream or whimper or put on lipstick or lip gloss, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of healing, which is to just give ourselves the gift of expression and without that judgment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, to find the right time and space for it.
Yep, absolutely.
There might be some times when I even have to say to my inner child, okay, I hear that you want to, have a little temper tantrum, and we're going to do that later because it might not be the right space for it.
That's right. That's right. Let's wait till we get out of the grocery store, please.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Awesome. So any final thoughts for our listeners today? Anything else you'd like to make sure you share or say to those listening?
I was just thinking about, I wish all the listeners many choices. I wish that they give themselves permission, like you said, Rachel, to choose and to keep choosing and keep choosing, because the more that we choose, the more we find that, we have options. There's options, and that we can really have an enjoyable life. And then we find places where, this isn't enjoyable. Someplace deep inside is still bringing something up. To recognize that, okay, we can tend to that, and then we can choose again. And our life keeps getting better and better exponentially just by choosing. That's so big, the choice.
Yeah, I second that 100%. My goodness. Really wonderfully, beautifully said. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And just thank you so much for being here today and sharing yourself and your story. And I want to let everybody know that Katya has a really wonderful opportunity right now. If you sign up for the updates for Katya's upcoming book, you're going to get a chapter from An Elf's Journey, Healing Childhood Sexual Abuse, or from her book Menopause Mavens, which she co-authored, and that's really where she explores how her repressed memories of childhood abuse suddenly arose at age 47 and how she really moved through that. So to sign up for that, you're going to go to her website, KatyaCooper.com. So that's KATIA Cooper.com. And that'll be in the description as well, so you can click on that. And so really thank you so much for having that available for folks, and I can't wait for your book to come out and be published and put it on my bookshelf and add it
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
Oh, I'm so grateful. You're such an inspiration to so many people, and this is what changes things in the world.
Holy cow. My goodness. Thank you for that. Thank you. Well, it's my joy. It really is. And it's a treasure to be able to be here with you, and it's a treasure to be able to sit with everybody here who's listening virtually. And I want to really just thank you all for being here with us today and joining us. And just a friendly reminder to pop over to rachelgrantcoaching.com and check out the resources that are available there for you on the site. And certainly be sure to subscribe to the podcast because we have so much more to share with you. And until next time, take good care.